name's Stuart. I've been a police officer for 27 years and I'm about 60 years old. Back in 2015, I took a tumble down the stairs fighting with somebody and had a traumatic brain injury. For the next year or so, I was off work just waiting for my brain to heal because that's what was recommended to me, and it wasn't working out very well, and I got referred to Dr. Zielinski in December of 16, and he did some testing and found out all the issues I had with my brain. And in March of 17, we did our first intensive therapy, and it was like somebody turned a light switch on, literally. I wasn't able to function hardly at all. Driving was difficult, paying bills, everything was, because my brain just wasn't working. And when I did that first intensive at the end of the first week, it was like, oh my God, somebody literally turned a light switch on and my brain was working again. I came back to see him in July of 17 and did another intensive, and after that one, at the end of the week, it was like HD. And that's the only way I can describe it, because the first intensive was a light switch and the second intensive was high definition, and my brain just was working better. I knew it wasn't working perfectly, but it was working a heck of a lot better, and it got me by for a while. And then as I went back to work after that second intensive, which allowed me to go back to work, I realized that there were still other issues that I had. And then in 2019, I came and worked with Shauna Hahn with the TMS machine, and did that for 30 days before I did another intensive with Dr. Zielinski. And the TMS machine really allowed the intensive therapy to be much more effective, because I got a different kind of wow effect at the end of that first intensive in June of 19, and I could feel the difference every day doing the intensive therapy. My brain's working better, I'm feeling better. I go home at the end of the day and I feel better. It's like, yeah, and the only thing that changed that was the TMS machine, and it's really helped and been really effective for making the therapy more effective. In the beginning, before I came and did an intensive, my balance was off. I couldn't walk down the hallway in my home without bumping into the wall because I couldn't keep my balance. My memory in terms of my speech wasn't working because I couldn't remember simple everyday objects. Talking to my kids, it's like, can you put the things in the thing? And I'd be pointing at the dishwasher, and my daughter would say, put the dishes in the dishwasher. I go, yeah, because I knew what it was, I recognized what it was, but I couldn't find the words for it because my brain was working so hard just to keep me vertical. When I was off work, I would get up, go do some errands, and try to go to the gym for a little bit. That, I could walk on a treadmill because I could hold on to the railings, but I couldn't really do much. I'd come home and I was exhausted, and I'd have to sleep for 2 or 3 hours because my brain was working so hard just to try to keep me functional, and driving was terrible. I remember I had one incident driving up to Hood River from Portland, Oregon, and I was just like looking back and forth like you do when you drive up the gorge, and I drove off the road like 8 times, and it's like there's something really wrong here. And after that first intensive, most of those things went away. Paying bills was a problem. I couldn't get my bills paid on time because I thought I paid them, but I actually didn't. I hadn't read a book. I'm going to start again, but I haven't read a book in like 3 years because my eyes were all screwed up in my brain, which was from my brain. And I can pick that back up again thanks to the intensive therapy. Pretty much I got my life back, and I've got Glenn and the people here at Northwest Functional Neurology to thank for that. I didn't know anything about traumatic brain injuries, although I had a couple of them. They all kind of healed on their own with time, and this one didn't heal. My traumatic brain injury was like here to stay, and my sports medicine doc looked at me and said, dude, you're totally concussed and you need to go see Dr. Zielinski at Northwest Functional Neurology. And I said, okay. And I got there, and the people are amazing there. They're friendly, they welcome me in. They did their testing, which is extensive. It's all recorded and graphed and charted and videotaped. It's an old word, sorry. Digitally, recorded your eyes, and me having a background in physics, I was pretty impressed by the scientific aspect of the whole process, and I was impressed by Glenn. He's brilliant and picked out exactly what was wrong with me and what was wrong with my eyes and what was wrong with my brain damage. And I saw Glenn, and we started working together. And after I started seeing Glenn, I actually ended up going to see some ophthalmologists, and I actually saw 3 of them, and they all said I had the same brain damage that he had seen in my brain, which was great for me because it's like, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. And it's like, wow, you could tell what was wrong with my brain not being an ophthalmologist. They could tell by the way my eyes were working being ophthalmologists, and he could tell how my eyes were or weren't working being a neurologist, which I found great and fascinating, being a scientific person myself. And then along with that, they care, and they're great people to work with, and I was paying this out of pocket, and they were mindful of my money and the time it was taking me and trying to be efficient with, my funds, and just really cared. And I couldn't ask for better people and better experience, and people genuinely cared about my health and getting me better, and they succeeded. And I kind of hate to come to the end of the line, but I'm glad I'm better. So and I'll keep my head out of harm's way from now on, so I don't have to come back.